Sample anxiety management plans. Boom. Be present oriented. Focus on what is happening in the moment rather than worry about potential negative future consequences. Observe your movements. Slow your gestures to moderate your speaking pace. Ox- Oxygenate. Exhale twice as long as you inhale. Mantra. Speak a word or phrase that can help you calm down and focus. ARC or ARC. Acknowledge that anxiety is normal. Recognize you're not the only one. Rationalize. Remind yourself that even if you totally flop is not the end of the world. Cool yourself down. Hold something cold in your hand to keep your body temperature low. I ask all my students and consulting clients to create an AMP. They routinely thank me. They routinely thank me, writing years later to report that they still are deploying these techniques. As they attest, finding and deploying the rate amp supercharges their confidence when they speak in high stakes, spontaneous situations. Small changes sustained Small changes over time really do make a big difference. One woman I work with, Stephanie, took over as CEO of her family business when she was in her late 20s. In this role, she had to connect with her 25 employees of diverse backgrounds and project an authoritative persona. Her task became even more difficult when COVID struck and disrupted the business. Employees who Employees who in some cases were decades older felt anxious and looked to her for leadership. As she made controversial as she made controversial decisions to stabilize the business, they grilled her about changes they would experience. Stephanie, Stephanie found daily communication extraordinarily stressful, even more so, because she wasn't a native speaker of English. She became self-conscious and would reveal her anxiety by stumbling over words and adopting a guarded, humorless demeanor. Her anxiety becomes so intense that she had difficulty sleeping and focusing on day-to-day tasks. She even thought about stepping down as a CEO. To help Stephanie, we developed an AMP that steered her away from fixating on future goals. Over time, she, she wound up deep, she wound up deepening and modifying her amp, taking it in a direction that was all her own. When I checked in on her, when I checked in on her in the spring of 2022, her amp had come to revolve around three phrases meaningful to her: heart, heart, speech, and mind, or HSM. Heart referred Heart referred to why she was speaking. She found that she was less anxious if she reminded herself of her intention to be of service to her audience and to concentrate on them and their needs, not herself. Speech focus on her focused her focused her on what she needed to do technically to connect with her audience. Knowing that she tended to speed up and stumble over her words when nervous, she made a point of gesturing more slowly and asking questions to force herself to pause. Mind was a cue to remind herself that the actual likelihood of blanking out and messing up was far lower than she feared. Stephanie is continuing to work on her anxiety, but thanks to her ongoing efforts with her amp and the techniques described in this chapter, her anxiety has become more manageable. She leads others more effectively and enjoys her job more. In fact, She has begun to coach others to become more confident in their communication. An amp is not a quick fix, but rather an ongoing experiment with each technique amounting to a hypothesis. Once you've generated your amp, test it out in real situations. Rehearse your amp to yourself before you go into your next break meeting or dinner party. Try the techniques in the moment. Did they help? If not, try swapping in the techniques and don't forget to update the acronym. There's no quick and easy solution for speaking anxiety. What we can do is engage in a more gradual process of managing this emotion so that it does not interfere with our communication goals. Discovering you. Being comfortable thinking. Being comfortable thinking on your feet is important for formal speeches and presentations. It holds special relevance when you're called to speak spontaneously. As we'll see in the next chapter, managing anxiety ultimately frees you to behave more naturally and authentically. When put on the spot, you become bolder, nimbler, more playful, and looser. You're able to tune in better to your audience needs and react appropriately. You're able to take more joy in communicating. All of this allows you to become more compelling as a speaker, to speak up without freaking out. When a CEO asked me what I'd find it if we were an onion and peel back my first 3 layers, I went into fight or flight. But I didn't but but I didn't let my nerves get the better of me. Instead, I initiated part of my AMP. I took a deep breath and repeated my mantra. I have value to offer. Almost immediately, I was able to recover and free myself up to improvise. I would I wound up focusing on the onions. I wound up focusing on the onion itself and drawing inspiration for the rest of my answer from there. Onions make me cry, I said. Whenever I cut them, I tear up. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I cry easily. In fact, I often look to surround myself with people who are willing to cry and show how they feel. I went on to talk about how in my previous job I hired people who are passionate and willing to share their emotions. This openness and energy made my team cohesive and supportive. While we sometimes disagreed with one another, we each knew we understood and respected our colleagues and their perspectives. Conveying this example to the CEO led to a deeper discussion about empathy, trust, and psychological safety, their importance in my life, and my desire to bring them to the role for which I was interviewing. Committing to focus on the onion and seeing where it led me was an important decision I took in the moment, and one that I might not have and had courage and clarity to make had I been consumed in anxiety. As I answered, I noticed that the CEO was smiling. He hadn't expected an answer like this. Most candidates had probably said something like, if you peel back the onion, you'd learn that I'm diligent, or you'd learn that I'm honest. In my case, he got a creative, unusual, and poignant answer that conveyed something unique about me. I would end up getting the job and having an amazing time at the company. I had no inkling of it then, but that job would alter the trajectory of my career. While I'm sure many factors contributed to the company's decision to hire me, I, it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt. It didn't hurt It didn't hurt that I it didn't hurt that I have been that I had be, that I had been able to react well after the CEO had put me on the spot. You can let your personal shine in these kinds of situations too. Managing your anxiety so that it doesn't manage you is essential first step. Chapter 2 Unlock Maximize med, medio, mediocrity mediocrity maximize mediocrity maximize mediocrity medio ah Chapter 2 Unlock Maximize Mediocrity. When it comes to spontaneous speaking, good enough is great. Anxiety is a anxiety is a pretty top anxiety is a pretty heavy topic. So let's relax a little and play a game called Shout the Wrong Name. Not familiar with it? You're in you're in for a treat. I first fell in love with this game when I saw Tobin, my friend and improv mentor, demonstrate and debrief it in a class we co-teach called Improvisationally Speaking. The game is simple. If you're sitting at your own desk or in a nice crochet chair, please stand and meander around the room. Just wander anywhere, changing direction periodically. Or you could do this outside, a little fresh air never hurt anyone. As you walk, point to a random object and call out its name. Expect I'd like you to call out the wrong name. If you point to a houseplant, call it horse, pink, regardless, cheeseburger, or gee whiz. Anything except houseplant. Once you've done this, point to another object and blurt out its wrong name, whatever comes to mind. If it's the same name you gave to the houseplant, that's okay. Keep pointing to objects as quickly as you can and naming them out loud incorrectly, using whatever words pop into your brain. Do this for, say, 15 or 20 seconds and then stop. How did you do? Was it easy to come up with the wrong names? This game seems simple, but if you are like most people, you actually found it quite challenging. When students and other audience members play this game, they tend to move slowly and cautionally around the room, pointing but not speaking, their faces growing pensive, as if they were trying to reduce a polynomial to its basic form. They avoid eye contact with me or others. Afterward, they talk about how hard they found this task. I felt stupid, they say. I'm no good at this. They even say, you're mean for making me feel foolish. As psychologists have documented, our brains more easily process stimuli that conform to expected patterns than they do stimuli that are unexpected. For example, if you ask people to read the names of colors purple, blue, orange, they find it easier when those names are written in the same color ink as the word. If you see purple written in orange ink, your brain will do a double take. It will take you longer to process the task of reading it. This phenomenon, captured in a famous experiment known as the Stroop test, also arises in the Shout the Wrong Name game. I swear I'm not I swear I mean I swear I'm not mean in asking students and you to shout the wrong name. By trying to do something wrong, you just practice a skill that is vital for success with spontaneous communication, maximizing mediocrity. Mediocrity usually gets a bad crap, and deservedly so. Nobody wants to maximize their mediocrity. But in spontaneous communication, That's exactly what you need to do. In a delightful paradox,